Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Transformation Talk. I'm here today with Dian Reid. Dian is a new author and a coming out coach. And I am so excited that we have so much to talk about today, Dian. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Dian and I met blogging when I first got online, so 2009, so a while ago now. And we actually have met in person a couple of times, which is always exciting. And your new book is
Yes.
coming out probably in the next month or so.
Yeah. Don't know the exact date yet, but definitely this spring. So just submitted for publication and just about ready to go. I am so excited.
All right, so I know you've been working on this for a while, and your story is fascinating. You have experienced, as a child, you were both verbally and sexually abused. Your mom was murdered when you were 16.
Yep.
Your dad died of cancer about 7 years ago, and you came out as as a lesbian. So so there's just a lot of different juice in there to talk about. So let's dive right in. And why don't you tell me a little bit about what the book is about specifically?
Well, the book is called 7 Days, and it chronicles kind of the last 7 days of my dad's life and a lot of what I learned in it. And it's basically about the authentic conversations that we had together that really changed the dynamic of our relationship and had me be at peace with his passing. I kind of naively thought that since I'd already lost a parent, that I would know how to do it, and that I would just magically, okay, I know what to do. And it wasn't like that at all, because it's a different parent. It happened completely differently, and our relationship was just different. So, given all the different factors, you know, when I learned that his cancer was fatal, and that he wasn't going to live for very much longer, some things that we had never talked about became absolutely necessary to talk about, having to do with me coming out. And I had come out to him, many years before, so he knew. But it was something that we agreed to disagree on and agreed to just kind of not talk about. We didn't talk about politics, religion. He was very religious, and so those things and my sexuality, it just made for very uncomfortable conversations. And the way I was brought up, you don't have comfortable conversations because they're uncomfortable, or you don't have uncomfortable conversations because they are uncomfortable and it's not polite. So we just kind of didn't have that. And then when he got sick, like, I wasn't going to have that. What I did learn from my mom's death was, you got to talk to them while they're alive, because when they're gone, you only get one side of the story. You only get yours. So I needed to have that input from him, and so I was so grateful for the time that we did have at the end. And so I talk a lot about just the difficulty in having this and having these conversations, and how I learned so much about him that I didn't know, because we had agreed to disagree, and he had all his growth, and I'm sitting there listening to him like, really? That's what you think? So I talk a lot about that as well, and how important it was for me to have those conversations, what it was like to have those conversations, and really how it changed our relationship, so that when he did eventually pass away, I really was at peace. And there's an oddness in feeling at peace with someone's death too, which I talk about as well.
So talking about that oddness, can you obviously your parents' deaths were completely different. Murder versus cancer. You had time. You didn't have time. Can you talk a little bit about the difference in the impact on you as the child, the survivor?
Well, When my mom died, I was 16. So, I mean, at the time I didn't realize it, but I was still growing. I wasn't a fully formed human being yet, you know, um, in body and mind, spirit, definitely in spirit. But, so my mom was such a huge part of my life. And, I wanted to be like her. I was still very much in that mom knows best. And so the impact then was, I mean, it impacted my whole world. It just really came crumbling around me. And it wasn't until years later I saw how it strengthened me. I realized that if I could get through my mom's death, then I could get through anything. So, bring it, life. Whatever you got. With my dad's death, I wasn't worried about how I would go on. And I wasn't really worried. And that just felt, like I said, odd. Life happens, death happens, and it's not comfortable. It's not happy. I'm not happy that he passed away. And there's a difference in that. And I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between being at peace and, whatever else we think being at peace means. It just means that, this has happened, and there's so much that I can learn from it and take forward from here. And I think for me, it was being at peace really means being able to move forward so that I don't have to hang on to a lot of that past and a lot of what we didn't get to talk about. So, maybe something like no regrets, but not quite that.
Mm-hmm. So when your dad died, I'm assuming that even being at peace as a human being, as a parent, there's still a grief process.
Oh, yeah.
What did that look like, considering you felt like you'd really been able to sort of clear the air and have those important conversations?
Yeah, that part also falls into the oddness of it. I felt at peace, and so I felt like I was a horrible, horrible daughter. Mm. I felt like, God, how can I be at peace with this? He's, recently passed. I mean, he just died a few days ago, and here I am talking about, it was, for the best, and I'm glad that he went this way, and I'm glad I was there, and what the fuck am I so glad about? I'm not glad about anything, but so that part was, God, I felt like an awful person. So there was that. I was grieving, I guess, the good daughter that I thought that I was, and trying to come to terms with that part of me. And, of course, as time went on, and maybe a little bit of coaching and therapy, realized that, it doesn't make me a bad daughter at all. It's just the way that it happened. But it doesn't take away those feelings. I mean, those feelings were real. And that was something that I had to work through. That just because I'm okay with his passing doesn't mean that I'm a bad daughter. It doesn't mean that I don't miss him. Doesn't mean that I didn't love him. It just means that from where I sit right now, I'm okay. I'm whole. That took some time to get to.
It's interesting because there's not a lot of support for that in our culture. That feeling of really being at peace with the circumstances, mm-hmm. while still having the mourning process. And it's amazing how often that guilt comes in of like, I should feel worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, even still sometimes it pops up. And this is, 7 years later. I think about, there are times that I've missed an anniversary here or there of, my mom's death. And, it's been 10 years of this. It's been 5 years of this. And shouldn't I feel this? And, I look at some other people who have lost their parents, and they handle it differently, for me. And sometimes I think, oh, should I be doing it like that? That's probably the right, oh, she looks really upset. I should be more upset, but that's not where I am. So, I can't be that. can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I borrowed the term from somebody, but I like to call it grief math, where we compare our grief with someone else's, and it's like, okay,
Totally.
is that the right way? Am I doing it the right way? Are they wrong? Do I need to change how I feel? Like, it's ridiculous because we each have our own experience, and it's all okay. But it's
Right,
kind of,
right. And even like when my mom died, I mean I was just heartbroken. I was 16. And so I would just sit in school and sit in this, beanbag chair and not do any work. And I would stay up all night and I would write at my journal and then I would sleep all day, and that was how I processed it then. And so even as an adult, I know that that's not a productive way to be an adult. But still, there was part of me when my dad died that was like, where's this girl missing her dad? How come I'm not, sleeping in a beanbag chair, all day and staying up all night journaling and, really feeling this, as if, by not doing those things, I wasn't feeling it.
right.
Um, but, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, I absolutely was feeling it. It was just I'm a completely different person, now. I mean, God, I've lived 3 lives since then.
Yeah. Yeah, so not even comparing ourselves to other people, but sometimes comparing ourselves to ourselves in a
Yeah,
previous grief experience can be really painful.
yeah, 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 absolutely.
Oh, wow. So I'm I'm curious, and I don't know if this question has any impact for you at all. So if it doesn't, you can just sort of dismiss it. But when you came out to your family, your mom had already died.
Yeah.
So has that impacted you not being able to have that conversation with her? Not, I don't know. There's something about it that I'm curious.
Well, I've thought about it at times. So many people get the opportunity to come out to their parents, and that can either be a good thing or a bad thing for them. It's there are so many different circumstances there, and factors. But I really wanted the opportunity, and that was just one other thing that I could stack onto the list of things that I didn't get to talk about, with my mom. Um, so at times it's made me sad. I've often wondered, how would she have reacted? She probably would have gone the dramatic route of blaming herself and, what did I do as a bad parent? And I would have loved to have seen that whole relationship evolve, and been a part of that evolution of our mother and daughter relationship. But we didn't get to have that. So I don't often go down the road of what if, but yeah, that is something that I feel like I missed out on, and some people have a really horrible experience in coming out to, one or both of their parents. And so I feel like it wouldn't have been that way. And as difficult as it may have been, it wouldn't have been awful. I wouldn't have been, excommunicated from the family, or anything. So I feel like, man, I really would have grown, and, there's no way I would have gotten away with the relationship that I had with my dad was much different than my mom. I was always so much closer to my mom. We lived together, and my parents were divorced when I was 2.5. And so I saw my dad. He was a weekend dad, and he was great, and he was a lot of fun, and I loved him, but it was just different. My mom knew me. She could come in and tell whether I was lying about being sick, and, get your ass out of bed and go to school. You're not sick. I can tell just by looking at you. We had that kind of relationship. So I think that I would have come out a lot sooner, because my mom would have been like, what's going on? It would have been a conversation, and I wouldn't have been able to keep it from her. She's, one of those moms. I wouldn't have been able to lie to her. She can tell when I'm sick. She can tell when I'm lying. I wouldn't have been able to get out of it. So, so it may have changed an entire, I don't know, period of my life and just the way I looked at things. And I might be a completely different person.
Yeah, it's so formative to have those experiences, especially when we're still so young.
Right.
Um, Tell me a little bit about why you're so passionate about supporting people in the coming out process.
Oh, well, part of why I'm passionate about it is because I went through it. My experience was relatively easy in comparison to a lot of people's stories. I came out, my dad was religious, but, you know, I don't approve of your actions, but I still love you. And, we maintained a relationship and, ultimately, came back together and agreed on a lot more things than in the beginning. So our relationship evolved and grew. But a lot of people don't have that. And there's so much fear around coming out. And even though I had a ton of supportive friends, most of my friends were like, well, of course you are. So it was not news to them. And they're like, and, whatever. So it wasn't a big deal to come out to my friends. And I had a lot of support there. But so many people don't have that support because they live in fear of what somebody else thinks of them. Not just what they think about them, but what they might tell someone else. So how they might form public opinion about them, how these other people think about them. And then, there are people in the world who don't think that gay people need to be alive at all. And that really breaks my heart that some people have to resort to something like suicide because they're gay. I was just watching this documentary on Prop 8 and Mormon culture, and I was reading. I forget exactly what the statistic was, but it's just a horrifying statistic about suicide in Utah and in the Mormon faith, where it's an extremely. It might be something like double the suicide rate amongst Mormon teens, and then find out afterwards that they're gay. So there's just a lot of oppression, and I think where I live in sunny Long Beach and Southern California, where it's liberal and very accepting, there are so many parts of the world. Even of California and the United States, where it's not accepted, it's not okay, and people are made to feel ashamed of who they are, as if there's a choice. And I don't think that people should live in that fear. And I think that people need this support to be able to come out and just be who you are. Whatever that is, whatever that path is, you don't have to follow someone else's path. You don't have to do what I did. You don't have to do what anyone else does, but you do need to be alive. I mean, and I guess that's part of where the passion comes from, is I want people to be alive, to live their lives. I've seen so much death in my own family, not because of coming out, but just death is death. And I think that being in the closet is a kind of slow death. Mm. And it really breaks my heart to see that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's painful to see it in other people, to see that inability to be who they are, whether it's because of their sexuality or because of something else. It's a hard thing to watch. All right, I'm going to finish with my last 3 questions. The first of which is, if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about the world, what would it be?
I think it would be to remove fear, and the reason for removing fear would be really around communication, so that we can communicate with one another. Because when we're communicating, we're open, and we can step in someone's shoes and see what they're going through, and just get outside of our own minds and beliefs and fear that we're somehow wrong. I'd like to believe that we live in a world where nobody's wrong, where we all just are. Um, yeah, so fear, be gone.
Awesome. Yeah. I certainly do battle with my share of it.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah. What brings you the most joy right now?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about joy lately, and um, I think it's laughter in those moments where you don't really expect it, and maybe sometimes where you think that you shouldn't be laughing, but that's exactly the time where you need to be laughing. We're going through some family things right now, and so it's been just trying, and I'm so grateful for the sense of humor that never fails to come out in our family. Um, and so that's been bringing me a lot of joy. Those belly laughs, where it's not just like ha ha ha, but you really get to get going. Yeah, maybe I need to try some laughing yoga. Maybe that'll be my joy for today.
Yeah. Yeah. Laughter is good. Finally, what's one fun, interesting, unique fact about you that makes you uniquely you?
Um, let's see. My name. Okay, so my name. I've always spelled it Dian with no e. I've always said I don't need no stinking e. And when my mom passed away, I had to go through the whole thing of getting a Social Security card. And to get a Social Security card, you have to get your birth certificate. And so I took a look at my birth certificate, and lo and behold, it had an E on it. And I was like, what the? So all these years I have spent, my name as Diane, Dian, when legally, it's with an E. And I think that, I don't know, I think that we just kind of have to be not who we always felt, but, when you have a sense of self, don't change it because of something you see on paper. And I think that I've always stuck to that. Like, I don't need the E. I'm fine just the way I am, I did without the E all the way through 16. So I don't know. I feel like my name is something that makes me uniquely me somehow. But
Wow. So your parents always spelt it without the E, even though it was on the birth certificate?
well, okay. So when I was born, if I was a girl, my dad got to name me, and if I was a boy, my mom got to name me. Well, I was a girl, so my dad named me. Well, my mom didn't want the E on there. So, but she didn't get to name me. So then when my parents got a divorce when I was 2.5, she just said, no E, no more. So I was enrolled in school without an E, so I just was Diane with no E, that's just who I was. And so, what could my dad do?
Right. So it's part of your mom's legacy.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
this kind of strange connection that I have to my mom, and so yeah.
wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your story today, and I'm excited to read the book. I've been hearing about it for a while, and I'm just so glad it's finally coming out. Yay, congratulations.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And we will have your bio with your links. It's authenticrealities.com for anybody who wants to find you, but it'll be on the page under the video. And definitely let us know when the book is out and available.
Will do. For anyone who wants to find out more about the book, there's also an email sign up on my authenticrealities.com, so you can just subscribe to that, and I'll keep you all up to date.
Perfect. I'm going to go sign up for that right now.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Diane.
Okay, bye.
Bye.